Russia has denounced U.S. President Joe Biden's warning of disastrous consequences for the country if it invades Ukraine. It says the U.S.'s position risks further destabilising the situation. A Russian military buildup near Ukraine has rattled the West in recent weeks. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Berlin meeting with European counterparts to discuss a response. And Trent Murray joins us live from Berlin. Trent, before Mr. Blinken arrived, the French president breaking ranks and calling on the EU to talk directly with Russia without including the US and NATO. What does this say about transatlantic unity at this point?
Well, I think it is a bit of an unwelcome distraction from the Americans' point of view, right? When Secretary Blinken is trying to do this whistle-stop tour across Europe to rally European allies and to keep them all singing from the same hymn sheet, we are starting to see some splits inside the European Union in the way it wants to deal with Russia. The latest, as you mentioned, the French President Emmanuel Macron saying that the EU maybe doesn't necessarily have to follow the lead of America in the way it deals with Moscow. On top of that, we're also hearing that Germany is resisting proposals to cut Russia off from the SWIFT financial payment system. That is essentially the backbone of how money is transferred internationally and has been one of the proposals of the types of punishments Russia should face for its aggression. But this, of course, is all happening on the backdrop of those ratcheting up of tensions in Eastern Europe. The latest intelligence suggesting that around 120,000 troops are now sitting on the border of Ukraine. And according to the White House, really President Putin could at very short notice decide to invade. President Biden even saying that he thinks that that is now looking like a likely scenario. So that has really got European allies very nervous, especially those that sit close to Ukraine, NATO members like Poland. And so what we are now seeing is this meeting in Berlin today of both Secretary Blinken and his counterparts from France, Germany and the UK. We expect them to actually hold a press conference in the next hour. It'll be one being very closely watched, not just here in Europe and Washington, but undoubtedly also in the Kremlin.
All right, Trent, of course, Mr. Blinken moving on to Geneva tomorrow to speak to his Russian counterpart. If we look at Russian demands, particularly on NATO, demanding, for example, NATO CATS deployment on its eastern flank, this is non-negotiable. Mr. Blinken knows this, Mr. Lavrov knows this. When they meet tomorrow, what can come out of these talks?
Well, I think any sort of breakthrough, I dare say, will be reasonably unlikely, according to foreign policy experts. One suggested that this could be the last stop before the train wreck. It is a very high-stakes summit, and I don't think we can underestimate just how important it is when Secretary Blinken sits down face-to-face to meet with his Russian counterpart to discuss Russia's demands. Now, President Biden has said there are really two main demands which Putin is pushing very hard for. One is a guarantee that Ukraine will never join NATO. Already, NATO is saying that that demand is just a non-starter. It is up to individual countries to make those decisions, and Russia doesn't get a say on that. Biden said the second major demand is a guarantee that strategic or nuclear missiles won't be ever placed in Ukraine. From the Americans' perspective, they say that maybe there is some wriggle room there to discuss that sort of thing, but we understand the Kremlin wants written guarantees. Antony Blinken is saying that he does not expect to hand over a list of written guarantees tomorrow, and so with that, there will be a continued levels of nervousness, I suspect, right across Europe as they watch this meeting take place.
Thanks for that, Trent Murray in Berlin.